By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, wrong priorities. Former National Intelligence Director Sisira Mendes tells the Easter Commission prioritizing reconciliation above national security was a big mistake. No threat. Navy says second fire on board MT New Diamond and threat of environmental damage brought under complete control. The old and the new. President Gotabaya orders the rehabilitation of 5,000 tanks with modern technology and ancient know-how, while Prime Minister Rajapaksa calls for relief for loan default guarantors. Be warned. Fitch Ratings report warns of 7 to 10% current account deficit from weakening worker remittances. All this and much more coming up on this Wednesday, the 9th of September 2020.
නව sunlight sakura දැන් දිකුකල් පවතින sakura මල් සුවඳින්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando. Moving on to your top stories for tonight. In its second sitting for this week, the Parliament today debated several tax regulations on production. During today's session, Samagi Jana Balawege parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva questioned the government's preparedness to spend public funds for the period starting from May until the end of August without seeking approval from the country's supreme legislative body. Meanwhile, Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriyala expressed displeasure over him not being recognized by the Speaker when he raised a point of order during the swearing-in ceremony of MP Premalal Jayasekara, who is currently on death row.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි ඊයේ ප්‍රේමලාල් ජයසේකර මන්ත්‍රීතුමා දිවුරුන්දේදී එනකොට මම විපක්ෂයේ වෙනුවෙන් නැගිටලා මම රීති ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා කියලා මම හඬනගා කිව්වා. ඒක වීඩියෝ වල සටහන් වෙනවා. නමුත් මම නැගිට්ටේ විපක්ෂයේ වෙනුවෙන්. නමුත් ඔබතුමා මාව හඳුනාගත්තේ නැහැ. ඇවිල්ලා දිවුරුම දුන්නා. දිවුරුම දුන්නායින් පස්සේ ඔබතුමා කිව්වා රීති ප්‍රශ්න මතු කරන්න කියලා. ඒක වැරදිනේ කතානායකතුමා. පාර්ලිමේන්තු සම්ප්‍රදාය තමයි විපක්ෂයේ ප්‍රධාන සංවිධායකතුමා රීති ප්‍රශ්න මතු කරුවාම you recognize me මට අවස්ථාව දෙන්න ඕන. මට අවස්ථාව දීලා ඔබතුමා ගන්න තීරණය ගන්න තිබ්බා.
ඉතින් ඔබතුමාට අවස්ථාව දුන්නානේ.
ඔබතුමා මට අවස්ථාව දුන්නේ දිවුරුම් දුන්නයි පස්සේ ඒ පාර්ලිමේන්තු සම්ප්‍රදායට විරුද්ධයි ඒක.
මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් ඇවිල්ලා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ දිවුරුම් දෙන්නේ එතුමාගේ ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් ඒ වගේ මේ සභාවෙත් ගෞරවනීය අවස්ථාවක්. ඒකෙදී වෙනත් ප්‍රශ්න මතු කරලා ඒ වෙලාවේ එහෙම කරන එක යුතුයකමක් නෙමෙයි කියලායි මම කියන්නේ.
වෙනත් ප්‍රශ්න නෙමෙයි මම මතු කරුවේ රීති ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඔබතුමා දන්නේ නැහැ මම මොනවද කියන්නේ කියලා.
මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්
කිව්වේ point of order.
මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් දිවුරුම් දීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් නැගිය හැකි රීති ප්‍රශ්නේ කුමක්?
ලංකා පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඉතිහාසයේ හෝ ලෝක පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඉතිහාසෙවත් සම්ප්‍රදායක් නැහැ. මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් දිවුරුම් දෙනකොට ස්ථාවර නියෝග හෝ මොනවා හරි යටතේ ඒ දිවුරුම් දීමට අවහිර කිරීමට අවසර ඉල්ලීම. ඒක කිසිම සම්ප්‍රදායක් නොවන බව
මේ දින කීපයකට කලින් ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රධාන කෙනෙකුගේ පාර්සලයක් ගෙනලා තිනවා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුළට. මේක පරීක්ෂා කරන්න ඉඩ දීලා නැහැ. ඒ පරීක්ෂා කරන්න ඉඩ දීම නැතිවීම හරහා පොලිසියත් එතන යම්කිසි වචන හොමාරුවක් වෙලා අන්තිමට වෙලා තියෙන ප්‍රධාන පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් 3 දෙනෙක් මාරු කරලා තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ අපි දන්නවා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට බෝම්බ ගහව කතානායකතුමනි. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගේන පාර්සලයක් පරීක්ෂා කරන්න පොලිස් නිලධාරීන්ට දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන්නේ මේක බරපතල තත්ත්වයක් ගරු කතානායකතුමනි. මම හිතන්නේ මේක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මන්ත්‍රීවරුගේ ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. අන්තිමට මේ පරීක්ෂා කරන්න ගිය නිලධාරීන්ව මාරු කරනවා නම් දැනට ඉන්න නිලධාරීන් ඊළඟට අකර්මණ්‍ය වෙනවා. අධෛර්යමත් වෙනවා. දැන් ඊට පස්සේ අපේ පැත්තට පාර්සලයක් ගෙනවොත් පරීක්ෂා කරන්න දෙන්න නැතුව අපිට එන්න කියන්න පුළුවන්.
උදේ 9ට ආරක්ෂා කමිටුව රැස්වීම රැස් වුණා. ඒ වෙලාවේ ඔය වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මතු කළේ නැහැ කවුරුවත්. ඒ හින්දා අපි සොයලා බලලා ඔබතුමාට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න.
විශේෂයෙන් ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා ජනාධිපති ධූරයට පත්වීමෙන් පසු විශාල ලෙස බදු සහන මල්ල ප්‍රදානය කිරීම නිසා රජයට ලැබෙන ආදායම අඩු කරගෙන ආණ්ඩුවේ අමාරුවේ වැටිලා ආණ්ඩුව නොකළ යුතු ජාවාරම්කරුවන්ට බදු ප්‍රමාණය නිදාස් කළයි කියලා විශාල චෝදනාවක් විපක්ෂයේ නගනවා. ඒ චෝදනාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන් අසාධාරණයි. මොකද රටේ ජනතාව පීඩාවට පත් කළා.
අධික ලෙස කූරලා බදු අය කළත් අයවැය පරතරය අඩු කරගත්තේ නැත්නම් ඒ ක්‍රියාවලියේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් ඇත්තේ නැහැ.
කතානායකතුමනි මැයි මාස 1 වෙනිදා ඉඳලා අගෝස්තු මාස 31 වෙනිදා වෙනකම් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කිසිම විදියකට මේ රටේ මුදල් වියදම් කරන්න අනුමැතියක් දීලා නැහැ. මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා වොරන්ට් බලපත්‍රයක් අත්සන් කරලා නැහැ. එහෙමනම් බන්දුල ගුණවර්ධන ඇමතිවරයා කියපු මේ බදු සංශෝධන ඒ කාල පරිච්ඡේදය තුල කොහොමද කරන්නේ? වියදම් කරන්න පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් අනුමැතියක් ලැබිලා නැති අවස්ථාවක.
ආචාර්ය හර්ෂල් සිල්වා මහතා කියනවා එහෙම වොරන්ට් එකකට අත්සන් කරලා නැහැ කියලා. මං ඉතා පැහැදිලිව වගකීමෙන් මේ ගරු සභාවට කියනවා විසර්ජන පනත් කෙටුම්පතක් ඉදිරිපත් නොකළ අවස්ථාවේදී ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 155 වගන්තියට අනුව ජනාධිපතිවරයාට පැවරෙන බලතල ප්‍රකාරව ජනාධිපතිවරයා විසින් වොරන්ට් එකට අත්සන් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
155 එහෙම කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැ. 155 තියෙන වෙන කතාවක්. කොහෙද යන්නේ? අර පැනලා දුවනවා. රජයේ සල්ලි කියලා දෙයක් නැහැ. බදු ගහලා ගන්න ජනතාවගේ සල්ලි අපි වියදම් කරන්නේ. We would like to see the warrant signed by the Minister of Finance for the expenditure of the government from the 1st of May to the 31st of August.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy 2.
Former National Intelligence Director Cicero Mendes told the Presidential Commission investigating the Easter Sunday attacks that he now considers the prioritizing of reconciliation over national security was a mistake made which led to the Easter Sunday attacks. Meanwhile, SLMC leader Rauf Hakim today told the Commission that he was convinced that a hidden hand was behind the Easter bombers, providing them support and not the ISIS terror group.
Retired DIG Cicero Mendes, who was the Chief of National Intelligence at the time of the Easter Sunday terror attacks, appeared before the Presidential Commission investigating the attacks to give evidence yesterday. First off, the Additional Solicitor General at the Commission asked the witness what was his understanding of his responsibilities when he took over the post of National Intelligence Chief. To this, he responded that his responsibilities were to coordinate between the State Intelligence Service, the Military Intelligence, the Terrorist Investigation Division, and the Criminal Investigation Department. The witness was then asked by a commission member whether he was aware of how intelligence was stored at the Office of the National Intelligence Service during his tenure. The witness replied that he was not personally aware of these facts and stated that instead there were several senior officers in the National Intelligence Office to oversee such matters. The commission then asked him whether reconciliation was given priority over national security during his tenure as Chief of National Intelligence. To this, the former Chief of National Intelligence responded in the affirmative. He was then asked whether he would consider it a mistake to have prioritized reconciliation over national security at the time. The witness stated that in hindsight, he now believes that it was the wrong way to have approached his responsibilities. Meanwhile, when the former National Intelligence Chief continued his testimony today, he revealed that senior officials of the CID had avoided attending meetings he had chaired as the head of National Intelligence. He added that they had avoided these meetings due to certain issues that had arisen during his tenure as the director of the CID and the DIG in charge of that department. The commission was also told that no CID officers who investigated the explosives cache found at the Lacto estate in Vanatha-Villua had attended the intelligence review meetings held on 5th February and 19th and 26th March 2019. Further, he revealed that the CID had not submitted any reports of these investigations to the National Intelligence Office either. He told the Commission that the senior DIG and director in charge of the CID did not attend the intelligence review meetings he chaired. Meanwhile, SLMC leader and Samaga Jana Balawege MP Rauf Hakim appeared before the Commission for his second day of testimony. The first question posed to him was by the legal representative of His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit Shamil Pereira, who asked him when was it that he first found out that Zaran was conducting extremist sermons. In response, SJB MP stated that in February 2019, Maitri Wickramasinghe, the wife of former Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe, had forwarded to him a speech posted by Zaran Hashim on social media, criticizing its contents and asked him to look into it. He added that upon making inquiries into the matter, he had learned that Zaran had been evading an arrest warrant issued against him following the Aliyar Junction clash in 2017. Further, when he contacted CID Director Shani Abesekara at the time, he had been given assurances that the department would do its utmost to apprehend Zaran and was told that over 50 teams had been deployed for this purpose. Following this, attorney Shamil Pereira then questioned the witness regarding his previous day's comments, where he made references to an invisible hand behind the Easter Sunday attacks. Expanding on this, the SLMC leader revealed that the members of the terror group, including Zaran himself, had used SIM cards from countries such as Nepal, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan to communicate between themselves. He added that only an outside party could have provided such facilities to the group. The witness told the commission, "It is not possible to commit such an organized terror attack using local knowledge alone. There must be an invisible force behind them. Intelligence services are still not revealing certain facts to the public. I believe there was an organized group behind this attack that acted to destabilize the country." Ravi Seniviratna, the former head of the CID, had publicly stated that ISIS was not involved in the attack.
Navy spokesman Captain Indika De Silva stated today that the second fire on board the stricken empty New Diamond tanker has been extinguished. He added that several sorties by the Indian Coast Guard Dornier aircraft have been successful in dissolving the reported oil slick emanating from the vessel.
The second fire on board the MT New Diamond was successfully extinguished this morning as a result of a joint disaster management operation led by the Sri Lankan Navy and Air Force. Accordingly, the Navy stated that no further flames or smoke has been observed emanating from the ship since then. The Sri Lanka Air Force released the latest photographs of the ship's condition to the media today. With tugboats being used to tow the stricken vessel further out to sea, the vessel's current position is 41 nautical miles off Sangamankanda Point. With the vessel's condition now stable, 3 officials from salvage company Smith Singapore Limited boarded the vessel today to carry out an inspection.
The distress vessel motor tanker New Diamond now lies 40 nautical miles east of Sangamankanda Point, and we believe at this point the fire which was erupted for the second time is now completely taken under control by the firefighters and the damage control team comprising the salvage partners and Indian Coast Guard, Sri Lanka Navy and the Indian Navy, even the Sri Lankan Air Force. Now the sea has gotten rough, the wind has increased in its speed, so salvers and the salvage operation has got little bit dragged than what has been predicted before. However, this morning 3-member experts from the salvage company boarded the ship from its bow and gradually approached to the damaged area. By the afternoon, they have returned back to the tug with their observations, and we are yet to receive the report on their observation. With the available data, as of now, what we know is that the 80% of the engine room and the pump room was flooded due to fire water directed at the engine room area basically, and it was supposed to be empty. Now it is 80% full of seawater mixed with unburnt fuel, carbon deposits and the residues on the fire effect.
Meanwhile, 2 oil slicks have been spotted trailing at a distance of 2 nautical miles from the ship. To minimize the damage to the marine environment caused by these oil slicks, a special chemical was spread over the area by a Dornier aircraft belonging to the Indian Coast Guard.
Because of this sinking of the ship from engine room side, we have observed 2 oil slick last evening and this morning as well. Now they have been treated with the chemicals meant to dissolve them, reducing the harmful effect of that fuel to the environment basically. Indian aircraft, Dornier aircraft which was parked at Mattala airport, has conducted 3 sorties so far to dissolve this oil slick, and now it is being observed to take further actions, especially to make it unharmful. Talking about the crew was taken to Galle Isolation Center, escorted by the naval personnel, and they have been all tested negative for COVID-19, and the legal proceedings and the protocols are underway right now, and the further actions will be taken as the conclusion of the legal proceedings initiated by the police.
The Marine Environment Protection Authority, NARA, and a research team from the University of Brunei launched an operation yesterday to determine whether there was any marine pollution in the area. Officials of the Marine Environment Protection Authority presented a preliminary report on the water and fuel samples obtained to the Attorney General today. In the report, General Manager of the Marine Environment Protection Authority, Dr. Tony Pradeep Kumara, stated that the type of fuel spread by the ship was not diesel as suspected before.
තාරවලට සමාන වගේ ඝන ලුබ් බොයිල් එකට සමාන වගේ තෙලක් තමයි මෙතන තිබුණේ. මේක අපි කියන ටියර් 1 තෙල් දූෂණයක් තෙල්. ඒ කියන්නේ මොහොන තෙල් වර්ගයක් අඩු ගානේ ටොන් 50කට ආසන ප්‍රමාණයක් තෙල් විසීමක් ලංකාව වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා අපි ප්‍රථම වරට අපි ඊයේ දැනගත්තා.
එතකොට මේක ටිකක් සීරියස් ගන්න ඕන කාරණයක් මේ.
අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේක තමත් තර්ජනයක මුලක්. තෙල් ලබා ගන්න සමාගම සහ ඒකේ ලංකාවේ නියෝජිතයන් මේ වෙද්දී අපි නිකුත් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන විධානයක් මෙම ලංකාවේ තියෙන මුහුදු කලාපෙන් එක නාවික සම්දේශයක් ඈතට අදගෙන යන්න කියලා ගිහින් ගත්තත් නැතත් අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේ තෙල් ලංකාවේ පිටට අයින් කරනකම් මේ අවදානම අපිට තියෙනවා.
දැනට වෙරළ ආරක්ෂක දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නාවික හමුදාවත් ඇතරම කරන්නේ මේ තෙල් කලඹමින් ඒක බිඳිති බවට පත් කරමින් පතුලේ තැන්පත් කරන ක්‍රමවේදයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරමින් පවතිනවා මේ වෙලාවේ. හෙට වෙනකොට අපිට බොර තෙල් මිශ්‍ර වෙලා තියෙනවා නම් හවස විතර වෙනකොට අපි ඉදිරි පියවර ගැන තීරණයක් ගන්නවා.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
In more news, in the latest development in the drug war launched by the government, several suspects were arrested for their involvement in drug rackets operated by prison inmates in the areas of Morotua and Mirihana. In the meantime, police personnel on a raid on a cannabis racket in Atalugama were assaulted by the residents, causing injuries to several police officers.
The Anti-Corruption Unit of the Mathura Police Division arrested 2 suspects near the Mathura High Court yesterday with 2 grams of heroin in their possession. During interrogation of the suspects identified as Carrot and Beet, the police managed to uncover the chief suspect behind the drug racket. Accordingly, the chief suspect was arrested with 57 grams of heroin in his possession at the entrance to the lawyers' offices at the Mathura courts. The police stated that the suspect had arrived at the location on a motorcycle belonging to a female prison guard. In a separate development, a team of officers from the Mandargama police carried out a raid this morning on a house belonging to drug racketeer Gotukola Rifai, located in Marava, Atalugama, based on a tip-off received that a cannabis racket was being operated from the location. However, around 8 residents of the house, including 4 women, had obstructed police officers from carrying out their duties during the raid, which took place at around 8:30 this morning, and proceeded to assault the police officers. What's more, one suspect had reportedly attempted to attack the officers with a knife. 2 sub-inspectors, a woman police sergeant and a woman police constable were reportedly injured in the attack. Police later on inspected the house using a police sniffer dog and were able to discover 500 grams of Kerala cannabis hidden in the house. Accordingly, the police arrested 4 suspects over the incident, including a 15-year-old girl. It was also revealed that the arrested suspects were from the same family, and further investigations are underway to locate 6 more family members involved in the attack. Meanwhile, in Mirihana, a suspect was arrested with 10.26 grams of heroin in his possession by the Crime Investigation Unit of the Mirihana Police Division. Investigations revealed that the arrested suspect, named Chuti Baba, had close relationships with prison inmates in remand custody. In the meantime, a suspect with 5.1 grams of heroin in his possession was arrested by police yesterday in Kosgoda. Police then searched the house in Miga Spittier following interrogations of the suspect and were able to discover a sum of 2 million rupees allegedly earned by the suspect through drug racketeering. Meanwhile, the Gal and Bindunuvava police were able to uncover a drug racket targeting schools and private tuition classes in the area. In another development, a suspect was arrested in Koralavella, Morotua with 40 packets of heroin in his possession. Following interrogations, another suspect was arrested at Joseph Place in Koralavella. The police seized 120 packets of heroin during his arrest. Interrogations of the suspect revealed that the drug racket was being headed by a Kalutura prison inmate. Meanwhile, an army driver engaged in selling Kerala cannabis was arrested at the Valipanna Migama junction by the narcotics unit of the Kalutura police division. Police also seized 100 grams of cannabis in his possession. Meanwhile, 2 other suspects were nabbed with 2.6 grams of heroin by the Vidakatia police last night while attempting to steal cattle. Furthermore, a foreign manufactured hand grenade, a haul of beef and a van were also seized by the police during the arrest. In a separate development, the police seized 4 grams of heroin and a stash of weapons consisting of a locally manufactured firearm and 3 T-56 cartridges during a search operation conducted at a house in Borogoda, Minuwangoda. A suspect was arrested during the operation and was remanded until the 23rd of September after being produced before the Minuwangoda Magistrates Court.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa instructed officials of the State Ministry of Tanks, Reservoirs and Irrigation Development related to rural paddy fields to expedite the rehabilitation process of 5,000 tanks island-wide using ancient technology and modern scientific methods. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed the Credit Information Bureau to grant relief to members of the public who are unable to apply for loans due to having signed as guarantors for loan defaulters.
A discussion on the future plans of the State Ministry of Tanks, Reservoirs and Irrigation Development related to rural paddy fields worked off today at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The President instructed officials to expedite the rehabilitation of 5,000 tanks island-wide in accordance with ancient technology and modern scientific methods. Furthermore, the National Food Production and Contribution Programme targeting 120,000 acres of unseeded paddy fields island-wide will also work in line with that. During the discussion, it was also proposed to cultivate 17 crops identified in the Maha season and other interim seasons using proper water management. Furthermore, discussions were also held on the gazetting of island-wide forest reserves located near irrigation systems and rivers within 6 months. Meanwhile, a progress review meeting of the Ministry of Finance was held under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today at the Ministry of Finance. The Prime Minister instructed the heads of state banks to adhere to a relaxed policy in granting loans to those facing various economic challenges. The Prime Minister also instructed the Sri Lanka Credit Information Bureau to take appropriate relief measures to grant relief to those disqualified from obtaining loans due to their names being included as guarantors for those who have defaulted on loans.
Chief Epidemiologist of the Epidemiology Unit, Dr. Sudat Samaravira, urged the public once again to adhere to safety protocols as the threat of COVID-19 is not yet over. He added that people engaging in their day-to-day activities in public must do so irrespective of their age or status. Total COVID-19 recoveries in Sri Lanka increased to 2,946, with 11 more patients recovering and discharged from hospitals. In the meantime, 70 new cases were identified yesterday and 9 of them were inmates of the Kandakaru Rehabilitation Centre. The remaining 8 included 6 foreign arrivals from Qatar and 2 from Kuwait. Meanwhile, Chief Epidemiologist of the Epidemiology Unit, Dr. Sudat Samaravira, urges the public to constantly adhere to safety guidelines, irrespective of their age, to avoid any possible spread of the virus.
With the spread of this disease in the rest of the world, especially in United States, Brazil and also our close neighbor India, Sri Lanka is not safe. So because of that, all the people should adhere to healthy measures. Elders, those who are having chronic diseases, should avoid coming into the society. Any person coming to the society should adhere to healthy precautions to prevent any leakage of COVID-19 into our society.
We'll return after this short commercial break. Don't go away. Welcome back. In business news, Fitch Ratings warns that without remittances, the Philippines, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh would all have large current account deficits of between 7 to 10% of GDP. This was stated in its latest report, highlighting the impact of the coronavirus pandemic and oil fluctuations on workers' remittances in the Asia-Pacific region.
The coronavirus pandemic and subsequent impact on the oil market are having a considerable effect on migrant workers and are likely to suppress remittance flows in the APAC region, Fitch Ratings says in a special report. In the report, Fitch says that it expects flows to weaken in the coming quarters, even though recent amounts have been surprisingly robust in some countries due to temporary factors. Further declining remittances in economies that are dependent on them may affect sovereign ratings through pressures on external finances and economic growth, it added. According to the report, demand for migrant labor has provided an important and stable source of foreign currency remittance flows for a number of APAC sovereigns, including 6% of GDP for Bangladesh, 7.9% for Pakistan, 8% for Sri Lanka and 8.4% for the Philippines. The report says that although India is the largest recipient of remittances globally, they account for a small share of GDP at just 2.9%. Further, it says that remittance flows have helped keep current account deficits contained by offsetting large trade deficits. The report warns that without remittances, the Philippines, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh would all have large current account deficits of between 7 to 10% of GDP. Fitch says that remittance flows in the APAC region were surprisingly mixed in the second quarter of 2020, with monthly data showing a considerable and broad decline during April and May, but a recovery in June and July. The rebound in flows was particularly robust in Pakistan and Bangladesh, where flows broke records in both June and July. Sri Lanka and the Philippines also saw an improvement in remittance flows in June, but much more modest. Fitch forecasts a 12% decline across the region in the second half of the year as the temporary support factors fade.
Sri Lankan shares ended higher for a second straight session today, with consumer and financial stocks accounting for most of the gains. The benchmark All Share Price Index closed 1.02% higher at 5,370.39. Here's a brief report on how the market traded today.
Market heavy counters brought the heat back to the market, recording a highest gain after the 3 weeks, sustaining the drive in the positive direction for a second consecutive session. ASPA witnessed an uptrend movement since the beginning of the session, predominantly due to the buying interest in capital goods and food and beverage counter, and closed at 5,370, advanced 54 points. And capital good counter ruled the turnover, contributing 63%, led by John Keel's holding, and moreover the parcels trades boosted the turnover amidst 41%. And market experienced a higher foreign net outflow almost the month, while they're recording a moderate participation.
The Sri Lankan rupee ended stronger at 184 rupees and 25 to 30 cents against the US dollar today, while bond yields came down marginally. However, the rupee ended at 184 rupees and 30 to 40 cents against the greenback yesterday. Now let's have a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. In international news, Victoria State in Australia reported a spike in its daily cases once again after 3 days, as it recorded 76 new cases in the last cycle. Victoria, which is the centre of Australia's second wave of COVID-19 outbreak, now accounts for about 75% of the country's cases and 90% of its deaths.
Australia's coronavirus hotspot Victoria reported its biggest rise in daily cases in 3 days today, as the state boosted its contact tracing program to ease the spread of the virus. Victoria, which is at the centre of Australia's second wave of coronavirus, now accounts for about 75% of Australia's COVID-19 cases and 90% of its deaths. The state reported 76 new cases and 11 deaths from the virus in the last 24 hours. The Victoria measures, due to end on the weekend, were broadly extended until September 28th, although with some small changes that eased some aspects of the restrictions. Elsewhere, Israel yesterday began a week-long campaign of night curfews and school closures in dozens of towns and neighborhoods, with high coronavirus counts, hoping it will help stem a spike in cases. Furthermore, some government officials have also called for a nationwide lockdown if the partial measures fail, which could also disrupt celebrations of the Jewish High Holy Days, which run from 18 September to 10th October. In the meantime, Argentina's coronavirus death toll surpassed 10,000 last Monday, and its current toll as per the last cycle now stands at 10,405. The South American nation struggles to bring its infection rate under control. Argentina has been under lockdown since 20th of March, and some areas of the country, including capital Buenos Aires, remain under varying levels of quarantine. Meanwhile, Jordan resumed regular international flights yesterday after being suspended for nearly 6 months because of the novel coronavirus pandemic. The Queen Alia International Airport will initially handle 6 flights a day before expanding to ensure that airport authorities can enforce strict social distancing and other health rules. The government had repeatedly postponed reopening Jordan's main airport over fears that travellers could bring about an increase in infections. The airport, however, was open for repatriation flights arranged for citizens in the Gulf and Europe, and also for foreign residents in Jordan who want to leave.
Some good news in sports. Sri Lanka's Yupun Abekon has set a new South Asian and Sri Lankan record in the men's 100 meter at the International Athletics Championships in Germany. He finished the event in 10.16 seconds, becoming the fastest runner in South Asia, surpassing the current South Asian record. Thus, the Sri Lankan and South Asian record set by Himansha Eshan last year by finishing the event in 10.2 seconds was was broken by the sprinter. In Germany, he won the race by defeating the country's sprint champion Dennis Almaz. Yupun Abekun is currently undergoing residential training in Italy with the aim of reaching Olympic fitness levels. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanila Fernando. Have a good night.